to address the issues facing Tennesseans today. From 10 News, this is Inside Tennessee.
Good morning and welcome to Inside Tennessee. I'm your moderator, John Becker. Candidates for a Tennessee House district that covers a big section of Hardin Valley and northwest Knox County will join us this morning. But we begin with yet another candidate in the race to replace Congressman Jimmy Duncan. The 2nd District covers, yes, a large swath of East Tennessee, includes almost 700,000 people, and we welcome to the broadcast Republican Hank Hamblin, who is running in this race against a half dozen other folks who'd like this job as well on the Republican side. Let's talk about why you're running.
For a lot of reasons. First of all, I care about this area. I spent 26 years in the United States Army, and after returning home, I retired back here along with my wife. This area means so much to us. This is where we grew up. We grew up in Campbell County, which is in the northern part of this district. And back when we were children, the entire district was covering all of Campbell County, Scott County, etc. But over the years, is sort of moved through time and space, if you will, to the east. I would like to see that actually go back. There's a census that will occur in about 2 more years, and after that census, they will redraw those election lines. I would like to see all of Campbell County, Scott County, and Union counties back in the 2nd District, because right now it's just a huge burden on the constituency. It's not fair.
You talked about your military service, but let's get more into your background and what you think prepared you for this role.
Okay, so I grew up again in Campbell County, and we grew up eating mustard sandwiches and that kind of a thing. That's just the way it was back then. Grew our own food, that sort of a thing. When I was 17, I entered the military, and during that time in the military, I got an education. I got a lot of life experience. I learned how to be a follower, a leader, and then later a commander, because I was an enlisted man first. I spent time there, then I was a non-commissioned officer, and then later I was commissioned as an infantry officer and commanded 3 separate companies. Was an aide-de-camp to a commanding general. I've served all around the world. I've served in combat and peace, and those types of scenarios, that life experience working with other governmental agencies as well as intra-governmental agencies, I think that really gave me a good skill set, a good foundation to add to the skill set that I bring here to this fight here in East Tennessee, because the last 5 years since retiring, I've worked really hard at the grassroots level. We've tried to help disadvantaged kids, impoverished children, school-age children, other groups of children, and as well as the homeless area up there in Campbell County. It suffered a huge issue with homelessness back in January, and we really got involved with that. And that, in all honesty, John, that's what pulled my trigger to put me in this race.
I want to talk about the issues driving you, but I know you're banging on a lot of doors. What are people telling you is the most important issue for them?
It depends on the person. If it's a veteran, they're concerned about veteran issues. If it's an elderly person, they're very concerned about Social Security, Medicare, health care in general. If it's a student, they're concerned about student loans. Just whatever the genre or not the demographic that I'm speaking to, those people have different areas of concerns.
So given that, what perspective do you have on the most important issue for you if you are to win this election?
It's really hard. That's a very asymmetrical answer to that question. To be honest with you, I think that the priority for this nation has to be looking at spending. We're spending too much. We're $21 trillion in debt. We're involved in 177 countries around the world out of the 196 countries in the world. We're spending too much money. We're involved in too much. We have to stop, reset, re-justify these missions we're on, whether it be war fighting, foreign internal defense missions, nation building, those types of things that are going on in the world. We need to reset and take that money, take that time, that energy, reevaluate it, and push it back into the infrastructure of this country and build this nation back and meet President Trump in the middle. Let's make America great again.
Congressman Jimmy Duncan, famous for voting against going to war in Iraq.
Right.
Was that the right vote at that time? Would you align yourself with that?
That was a hard issue, a hard decision for him to make, and I respect him for it. But I got to be honest with you, that first tour, I was involved in the invasion of Iraq, and I got to tell you, I really feel like initially we were doing the Lord's work. Those people were so destitute, they were oppressed. We did a lot of good, but obviously when it turned into the insurgency later on in 2003, obviously hindsight's 2020. I would say that Congressman Duncan made a very brave and courageous decision. It felt right at the time, being a soldier on the ground, But I can only imagine the pressure he was under and what he must have suffered making that type of a decision. So, yes, obviously, I respect the man, and I'm very proud of the man being from East Tennessee to stick to his guns like that. But being a soldier on the ground and seeing the immediate effects we were having on that nation and putting that interim government in place, it was special and it was miraculous to a lot of people over there.
Before we get to more on your record, let's talk about his. Do you see yourself following along his footsteps as a congressman? He's talked a lot about the nation spending way too much money, and yet again and again we see bigger and bigger budgets coming, be it a Democrat or Republican administration. Do you see yourself aligning with Congressman Duncan and his voting record?
I do when it comes to fiscal responsibility. I think the man was on point. We've got to stop spending. We've got to start conserving. And as a matter of fact, this next Congress has to get decisively engaged in preserving and protecting Medicare and Social Security. So in regards to fiscal responsibility, absolutely. In some other areas, I'm sure, I'm going to be Hank. I'm not John Duncan.
Hank Hamblin's our guest this morning, one of them on Inside Tennessee. We'll be back with more questions about his run for Jimmy Duncan's seat right after this.